And you are still listening to Africa Unfocused. I'm here with my host, Donnie. We have been talking about what's going on in Africa. We talked about culture, economics, and even in tech, what's going on the continent and in the diaspora. But now we are talking a bit more, it's serious stuff. I call it thought-provoking content. And this time we are talking about, should we send money back to Africa? Remittance. Now, I know sending money back to Africa is a whole business. There are companies that capitalize on it. Western Union is nothing without remittance. It's that serious. And now we have somebody that I'm going to talk to that recently, the video went viral. And I think it went viral because a lot of Africans could identify with it. They could connect to it so bad that it just went viral. And this is by none other is a Nigerian based in Australia, a motivational speaker and entrepreneur. And he dropped a video and he said, you know what? He actually started with what's it called? A proverb. A proverb, as in, when something with, when you say something, the trees are witness, something like that. I will ask him in a bit what it meant. And he said, you know what, there's a lot of people that are sending money back to Africa, but is it really worth it? And are you really valued for the things that you do for your people back home? And he pretty much raised some interesting questions that I was like, you know what, this guy is really right. And looking onto his other videos, he went in and talked about things that you should think of before you send or bring in a wife from Africa to the West. All of those stuff, all of the drama that Africans really go through. So I was like, you know what? Let us get in touch with him to talk to us more, all the way from Sydney. And let's just see, because we have him on the phone. Let's just see if he hears as well. Mare, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm very good. How are you? I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, really? You were probably laughing on the other line. You were like, ha, I got these people.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely. How was your Sunday? Because you are actually ahead of time, and people, I had to interrupt his sleep because it's like 6 a.m. right?
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, it's about it's Monday morning now in Australia, 6:16 a.m.
Oh wow.
Sunday was good. Normal church and work and family. That's was good. Very good.
Did you work out? Because I know you're kind of like my co-host Donnie. You work out like 5 days of the week.
I worked out. Yeah, I try to do 6 days. So I work out like Monday to Saturday. Take a Sunday off. Sometimes I still go on a Sunday.
Right.
But so it's Monday morning. So it's back. I'm back to the gym again after this interview.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's some serious on a motivational note.
Yeah, it is serious because many people think going to the gym or working out is just to look good, but if a doctor tells you that you have fatty liver or you got a problem with your health and you need to reduce weight, then I think going to the gym is very, very important. It becomes important to you then.
Absolutely. So it really becomes a part of life, basically.
Yes, it is. Our ancestors, they worked out every day.
Is it?
Our ancestors went to the farm. Yeah, our ancestors went to the farm. They walked long distances to the farm. Mm-hmm. Then we didn't have any plows or any bulldozers like we have today. Our ancestors had hoes and shovels, and they worked out every day.
Right.
And if you look at the history of African ancestors, they lived longer, 110, 120 years, 130 years. It was all because of exercise. And
130 years.
We had our ancestors who lived long. Mm-hmm. We had people even in our time and day. When I was in Nigeria, I remember there's this woman from my mother's tribe. She lived up to 120. Yeah, wow. People live long, even to this day. Yeah, so our ancestors lived long.
I love that. That's a piece of education that I really didn't know.
Oh, okay. There are books on these things like The Miseducation of the Negro, The Black Man and His History. There are books on these things that talk about African ancestors and the words that they said. So when you read things like that, you get more educated and more enlightened on how our ancestors lived.
Right. And that is really evident in your pursuit of life, basically.
yes. I'm a big believer of African ancestry. I believe that our ancestors were given wisdom directly from God. Because if you read when King Leopold wrote the letter to the missionaries when they came to Congo, there was a word in the letter. He said, you cannot teach these people about God. This they already know, for they submit to a deity called Nzambo and Ngai. So you cannot teach them about God. They already know. So I believe that our ancestors, they had wisdom or directly given to them by God Almighty. But because a lot of history have been lost over the years, and African people have been told that our history is demonized, rather
Yeah.
than rather than us to really sit down and find out what is it that made that why was Africa called Al Land? Why was it called the mother of mankind? What when the Illuminati talks about the Egyptian king passing a scroll to a Greek on the floor? What are all these things? When you begin to research into African history and our ancestors, you'll be amazed at the kind of wisdom that they had and how they lived their lives. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, preach. Before we're gonna go more into that, like I've known, I've watched a couple of videos from you. Absolutely love it. Definitely the angle that you bring into topics that that really concern African people, especially living abroad.
Yes.
I know you as a motivational speaker, which is really evident in that short piece that you even shared. Tell us a bit more of who you are, where you're from, what even brought you to Sydney? Like, give us an idea of who Mare is.
Okay, Mare. My full name is Mare Oboh. Mare means God decides my faith, or God's decision. And I was born in Nigeria, to a family of seven. I'm the sixth of the seven children. My father was a banker, was a top banker for one of Nigeria's, because then it was called the New Nigeria Bank. And my mother was a teacher. When I was 5 years old, my father passed away in a very ghastly motor accident. Yeah, it's like how many years now? And then so I was raised by my mother. I finished my university in 2006. I studied at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. And after, how Africa is, I got a job as a banker. And
very important.
Right. Yeah, it's very important. Yeah, and I lost that job because I did something wrong. Actually, I cheated in when I was doing my training, because I didn't really know anything about mathematics. So I found a way to get around it, and I was caught and I was fired.
Oh.
After that, I'm very happy to say it because it's the past now.
Of course.
So now you can really talk about it and be joking.
It's an inspiration as well, So I then tried to do a bit of music. I released an album, didn't really do much. So due to the frustration, I told my mother, I said, I need to get out of here. And my mother was like, where do you want to go? I told her maybe the US, and she refused. She didn't want me to go to the US.
Okay.
And then when I talked about Australia, I said, oh yeah, Australia, I like Australia. Whereabouts in Australia? Sydney. And then so I came to Australia. I studied Sydney Film School, for a diploma in film and television.
Right.
And after that, I studied also for a diploma in IT. And now I'm just finishing up my master's in social work. So
social work. So you went from media to social work.
Yeah, life, where we found a place where we can find a job quickly, and where we can impact our work quickly. Film and television is a very competitive place.
Yeah.
So I don't think I have that fight yet. But although I believe I would like to get back on the screen, but we just have to look for a way that we can balance the day-to-day life. And social work was good for me to get into.
I see. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's working for you pretty much on YouTube.
Yes, it is. It is working for me. At the moment, I'm a manager for a program called Impact Youth Services. So we look after kids that are out of home care. So children who have been disadvantaged, from maybe children taken away from abusive homes. So my company will look after them. So I'm responsible for the intake. I'm responsible for finances, rosters, budgeting, staff appraisals. So that's what I do. Yeah.
That's big.
That's big.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it is big.
It is.
Thank you.
Very impactful,
Thank you.
I would say.
Yeah.
So, navigating through everything, you came to Sydney. What helped you finally make decisions, as in terms of what to do, discovering what your thing is? What helped you get to where you are now, as in terms of decision making?
I think my life experiences made me what I am today. The challenge that I faced, I was a man who went through a lot of challenges early in my life, a lot of pain, a lot of disadvantages, a lot of hurt. And rather than make that break me, what I decided to do was to use it as a motivation to make my decision. So because of what I experienced in my life, I never want to be there. So that's my reason why I wake up in the morning. So my daily decisions are centered around, you've gone through this pain. Rather than be bitter about it, you got to be better about it. So everything that I do, I'm like, okay, is this going to move me to a better version of myself?
Mm-hmm.
Then I realize the pains of my past. I bring the pains of my past into it, not to bring any painful feelings back, but to see if the decisions I'm making today, would it bring me back to this pain or would it improve my life? So yeah, my life experiences have been the basis of my decisions. Yeah.
I love it. And tell us a bit about the period that you came to Australia, because one thing that I always talk about, especially to my diasporans, is the cultural differences. Some people, it leaves frustration with some people, but with some people, they kind of take it to their advantage, dependent on their sector and their working experience and things, and also their network. So tell us a bit about when you got to Australia. How was your first day there, and dealing with cultural differences? How was that for you?
Thank you for that. That's a very interesting question. Like Sydney is a multicultural place. There are places where if I go in Sydney and I take a picture, people say, "Are you in Asia? Are you in India? Are you in?" It's a very big multicultural city. When I came here, my mind was very, very bad. This is my first time being overseas. So when I came to Australia, I didn't have a shower for 2 days.
Wow.
Because I didn't know how to use the tap. In Africa, we just put on the tap and the water is all cold.
Yeah.
But here, when you put on the cold water, it's very cold. And I didn't know you had to turn the cold and the heat together to give it that warm.
Oh wow.
I didn't know. I was like, imagine how could a man like me not even? I didn't know that. So
the struggle is so real.
Yeah, so I told one of the girls at the reception, because I was living in a backpackers. In Australia, I call it the backpackers. It's like a hostel.
Okay.
And I explained to her, and she's like, okay. Oh, she laughed and she walked up and then she showed me how to use the shower. It was very funny. And then I went to a Thai restaurant to eat chicken fried rice, because Thai they're close to African in the terms of the food.
Yeah.
And so the girl was like $13 for a meal. What do you mean for this meal, $13? I was like, unbelievable, because I came here by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and adapting into Australia, I had to look for a few African people, and then to show me the ropes.
Yeah.
To teach me what to do, what not to do, and I was fortunate to meet a few good ones. Although I met horrible ones, but I met a few good ones who helped me to flow into the community. And then today, I just live.
So Mare, you moved there by yourself?
I moved here by myself. Funny enough, man, it was the most courageous decision I ever made in my life. On a 1-year visa, with no intention to return back to Nigeria. No family to support me here. I said, a lady asked me, who are you going to meet when you get to Australia? I said, I'll meet God. I said, I'll meet God. I said to myself, it's very funny. My migration, when I remember how I came to this country and where I am today, I really say that if you say to yourself that either I succeed or I die, if you're able to use that word yourself, I believe God will move. That's my belief. Because when I got on the plane, the lady asked me, so who are you going to stay with when you get to Australia? I said, no one. She said, what? She told her husband, she said, this guy has nobody in Australia. I said, I don't have anyone. How are you going to survive? I said, God. I said, God. I was ready to sleep under the bridge. I was ready to do anything, but I knew for sure that I wasn't returning back to Nigeria just yet. Yeah, just yet. Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
determination, I would say.
Yeah.
Had you
Yeah.
traveled before? Have you been to abroad?
I have never, but now I'm well traveled. But before then, I had never traveled out. So Australia was my first migration journey. Yeah.
But why Australia? So I still can't get where did you get the inspiration like Australia from?
Yeah, okay. There was a time when I was back in Nigeria then when I was going through my tough times, and I was one of my mom's tenants came to talk to me, and he's like, "Why don't you go to Australia?" I was like, "Australia? I've never really thought about it because African Nigerians don't really think about Australia. We're mostly into America, Europe, you know.
Same with Ghanaians.
Yeah. We don't think far into Australia. So I didn't really know much. It's like, there's some people that live there. They're doing well. They're doing very. I'm like, oh, they're doing well. Okay, what did they do? How's the economy like this? I never really heard about Australia.
Yeah.
And then when I started researching about their migration policies, and I saw that their migration was not as difficult as some other countries are. Where they had a policy where if you study this course, you can get your permanent residency. There were different pathways. So it was easier than UK at the time, where UK was after studying, you have to return back to your home country, things like that. So that was what brought me here. But to my greatest amazement, when I came to Australia, I found that African people in this country were doing very well. Were doing marvelously well. So I was like, wow, okay. So it was a good choice. And my mother, being a high school teacher then, there was a time Australian government were looking for teachers back in the day, she told me, and they came to Africa as well. African people applied for it. And she said some of her colleagues went there as teachers, and they came back and took their families. So she always told me, she said, Mari, my heart is in Australia. She made that statement to me, my heart is there. So, yeah.
Okay, so did your mom eventually come along?
I've begged her to come here. I've begged her. Throughout last year, I begged her to come. What happened was a friend of hers came here and told her, Australia is very far. My leg was so swollen on the plane. I couldn't stand it, man. It's so far. And my mother, being 75, said, no. I'm not coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
They say it's
We're
quite
still
the
negotiating.
distance. Okay.
It is far. It's far. Australia's far from everywhere.
Yeah.
It is far from everywhere.
Definitely. I love that. Well, on that note, you gave us so good information about how Mare Oboh ended up in Australia and the journey to you so far.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Let's go listen to a song, and then we will be right back and talk about you as a motivational speaker. You also have a book out. Also we're just going to talk about what led you to go and talk about, listen, people, Africans, let's just stop sending money back to Africa, or at least you helped Africans to reconsider their decision as to when to support their family. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But first, let's listen to a song by Kwame Eugene collaborating with Sarkodie. Then we'll be right back and talk some more with our lovely guest, Mare. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Baby, you gon' kill me shy. You want to blow my mind. Oh, I don't know. My baby won't go. Baby, you gon' kill me shy. You want to blow my mind. Oh, I don't know. My baby won't go. You don't want me no more. You don't want me no more, girl. You don't want me no more, cause when you're there, you don't want me no more. You don't want me no more, girl. You don't want me no more, cause when you're there, me you'll be out to sell. I'm out to sell. And you're there. Now when you meet my wife, now say what if I won't find me, cause you're treated, and you can't dream, you're not me, baby, fine. Yo, you told me not to bother. And the rest of the way I'm bola. And the rest of the way I'm bola. And the rest of the way I'm bola. Yo, you told me not to bother. And the rest of the way I'm bola. And the rest of the way I'm bola. want me no more. 'Cause when you're there, you don't want me no more. You don't want me no more, girl. You don't want me no more. When you're there,
Ushame na wose me ne wudi ase. Wode me bete na ko si me wie ye. Ene me nya kranka me ma me ti ase. Ma me wudi me ni je na ko hyesie ye. Oba ne twema me se bi sikenti. Aho kire bai na we yi me back. Yo jame na wa ko fa ko fi jemfi. Ma me sa ne ba we chi o na me wa ho. Oba ne di me wu. Wa jeje me koko so akogya me so breni. Wobeye me mesi den na me hu. Njo baby betumi aka no kurani. Na tese me ni sika ka me ni dofu bia. Obi be pe me senya me tia. Ada agi se me nya sika daima. Wo hia mama hwe me dofu daina. Afa hi ne wo ka ne se.
you don't want me no more. You don't want me no more, girl. You don't want me no more. 'Cause when you're there, you don't want me no more. You don't want me no more, girl. You don't want me no more. 'Cause when you're there, yo, you told me not to bother. And I said, yeah, why am I bother? And I said, yeah, why am I bother?
And that was Kwame Eugene collaborating with none other than Sarkodie. You're still listening to Africa on Focus. I'm your host, Miss Abba, and here is where I share success stories from Africans one by one. Every week, I make sure I get to invite somebody on the show, or maybe even through the telephone line, to talk to us about how we can achieve success, how we can broaden our horizon, and our approach to life. In the meantime, I just want to give a couple of shout outs to people that have taken their time out to tune into the show. Enes Dako, shout out to you. And also Latif. Latif, long time. So good to hear from you, and good to see that you're tuning in. And also Evelyn Banfo, shout out to you for tuning in right now. We are talking about sending money back to Africa with our special guest, Mare Oboh, who is a motivational speaker and entrepreneur based in Sydney, Australia. Yes, we've interrupted his morning to come and talk to us here on HiRadio, and I have him on the telephone. Listen, this is somebody I could talk to like for hours. He even started up with Proverbs, and I was like, oh snap, he's spitting truth right now. And I'm absolutely loving it. So I'm here with my co-host, Donnie. You have a question for him, actually, because you want to know more.
Right, yeah. Brother Murray.
Yes.
Hi. So I wanted to ask you, what got you into, because you've been reading some books on African history, and so what intrigued you, or what inspired you to get more knowledge when it comes to the Africans or the African identity, etc., etc.
You see, thank you very much for this question. If you really look at the spectrum of the world today, you would see that the black man, the black race, is the most disrespected race in the world.
Absolutely.
You know, and if you look at it, and then when you look at when you look at things like that, you find out that the benefit of that is that it brings us together. It brings us to a self-awareness. Now, for so long, we've been made to believe that our African DNA or African ancestry is demonized, it's satanic, it's evil, and so it has scared a few African people to go deep and research about themselves. What made me in tune with the African life was one time I was listening to African beats. I was trying to get the motivation in my spirit, so I was listening to African drums, and when the drums began to play, I began to feel within myself some kind of power, I couldn't explain what the power was. And so I was reading through the comments on the YouTube, and it said, somebody commented and said, oh, I'm a Christian, but I don't know what these drums, they're stirring something inside of me. And then the person replied and said, your ancestors are trying to connect with you. When I saw that, I said, oh, out of the fear again, it may be demonized, so I cut it off. Yeah. And so this thing may sound very weird, but one day I was sleeping at night, and then I heard a voice inside of me. That told me, Mari, wake up, your ancestors want to talk to you. Okay. It was very strange. I was like, I said this to a friend of mine, and he said, I'm not part of this. I don't want to hear about this, but it was true. He said, your ancestors want to speak with you, get up. So I got up, I came outside. And then how would they speak to me? So I went through Facebook, and when I went through Facebook, the first person I went to was a high school mate of mine, Imade, and she shared the story of an African ancestor called Emotan. And when I read her story, I was amazed about the inspiration that I could draw from her life. So when I began to read books about the miseducation of the Negro, the Black DNA. Started reading a book, I Am Black, I'm Proud. Started reading all these books. I started to see that we as African people were the beginning of life, we're the beginning of religion, we're the beginning of everything.
Yeah.
When you're being attacked, when your group of people are being attacked, and they decide to say, why are we being attacked? Let's come together. You can realize that why are Black people attacked? Why are Black people disrespected? It's because Black people hold the ball. We are the ones holding the ball. We are the future. So the reason why we're being attacked, being ridiculed, is to make sure we never get to think of who we are. Is to spend our whole life, a whole generation of people not knowing who they are. But I believe that if every African in this world gets to know who you are, you would never bow down to anybody.
Was this
succumb to anybody.
Did this happen in Sydney or in Africa, back in Nigeria?
In Sydney.
In Sydney.
No, it happened in Sydney. You know what, my brother? I'll tell you. African history is not in Africa. It is here. African history is not in Africa. African history was stolen out of Africa, and it's in the Western world, written in plain print. If you want to know more about African history, you have to leave Africa and come to the Western world and get experience of Africa, know the truth about Africa, know the invasion of Africa, know how religion was introduced to Africa, know the scams of religion, and know how you can move yourself forward and how you can have a deep connection with God.
Okay. And did this knowledge, has it changed your perception of where you come from? And also, has it changed your way you interact with the continent of Africa?
Yes, it has changed. It has changed, and sometimes it scares me. It scares me.
What way?
The book of Proverbs says that too much knowledge wearies the soul. It wearies the soul. Too much knowledge. So the more you know about Africa, the more you become afraid. The more you become afraid, you're like, I don't want to commit blasphemy. I don't want to sin against the Holy Spirit. Right. I'm worried from the things, because the more you begin to know about it, you'll be like, wow, you know what I mean? So yes, it has changed the way that I connect with African people. Like when people tell me now, Mare, are you a Christian? I will tell them I'm a believer of Jesus. Okay. I don't answer that question. I don't tell them I'm not a Christian. I tell them I believe in Jesus. That's all I tell them.
Right.
Now, why can't you say I'm a Christian? Why can't you say you're a Christian? I tell them, why are you a Christian? Most of us are Christians or Muslims because we were born into the family. We're raised to be Christians. Yeah. We go to church on Sunday, but most of us don't have that relationship with Jesus himself.
True.
If you look at if you look at Jesus and the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, if you look at these two people, they were not religious people. No. They were people who had a relationship with the Creator. And so man took their lifestyle and made a religion out of it. Yeah. You see, so and Jesus always talked to the Pharisees and always told them that they were liars. They're religious people. Jesus always fought against religion. He fought against it. You know what I mean? So, and the people who, in the 4th year of the Prophet of Muhammad Ibn Abdullah, peace and blessings be upon him, you will see that year when he was being attacked and ridiculed by people, these people who were killing Muslims were religious. They thought they were doing it in the service of God. So, my understanding of African religion, of African people, was that we had our own way that we connected with God. We had our own way that we and God was in our midst. Because if God was not in our midst, we couldn't have built the pyramid. We couldn't have built the great walls in Zimbabwe. If God was not in our midst, we don't have doctors. African people were the first surgeons in the world. We were the first surgeons. We conducted brain surgery without even the modern technology today. But when the Westerners came in, they're like, how do we break these people? How do we destroy these people? How do we invade these people? Okay, let us make them believe that their religion is demonic, but our religion is superior. This is the strategy of the colonial masters, and so far till today, it has worked well.
So
I would say so.
There's a speech that. Okay.
Definitely
Sorry.
say so. No problem, no problem.
Yeah.
So before we get into this, because we're gonna know some more about what's really behind, or actually your motivation for creating these videos, because basically what you are sharing, you're sharing a bit of history, and you're actually connecting it to our modern day of living. That's what I see is the core of what you do. So let's go back to how this YouTube content sharing started, and how did this lead you to talk about sending money back to Africa, to really think about that? How did that all begin?
I started speaking at work. The whole thing started at work. I was a disability support worker, and I was working with this Kenyan guy, Vinny Keegan. And when we were talking, I was, talking. He said to me, Mare, you can really talk. Why don't you take this as a profession? I was like, oh, come on, man. We're just like, no, he said, serious, man. You have power in your voice. But then we brushed it, down the drain. And then so one day I was also with an Aboriginal man by the name of Graham Mooney. And he works for the Prime Minister. He works at the Prime Minister's office. And then I was going through a challenge with my education then, and I approached him. And he said to me, you have so much power in your voice. You can be a motivational speaker. You can speak to your community. So, when God wants to speak, he uses 2 or 3 witnesses. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, so what do I do? And he said, you can use your life experience and be a motivation to your people. Mm-hmm. And so I was then listening to one Ghanaian great preacher, Mensa Otabil, mm-hmm. and he was talking about gifts and callings. And I was like, wow, okay. So this speaking is a gift, but I need to call myself into the African community. So I called myself into the community. Some people have this and they go preach the gospel. Some have the gift and they go into fighting a cause. They call themselves into saving feminism. They call themselves into speaking for keeping animals. Mm-hmm. But I called myself to speak for my community.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how the whole thing started.
Your community you mean the community based in Africa, or also the African community you might have come across based in Sydney?
Diaspora. No, African community worldwide. African community both in Africa and African community in diaspora. I started with diaspora because that's what I could relate to.
Yeah.
But as time went by, when people began to send me messages and call me on the phone, and I began to hear people's life stories, mm-hmm. I was like, God Almighty, what have I called myself into? Wow, yeah.
Got it. So how did the subject about sending money back to Africa come about? For those of you who haven't seen it, we're talking to Mare Oboh, who's his video on what Africans should think about before sending money back to Africa. He placed it online, and a lot of people picked it up and reshared it so much because they could identify with what Mare was saying. A lot of the problems that come with it, sending that money back to Africa, comes so familiar. So that is pretty much what is out there, and all of the content was so strong. How did you even come to that subject?
I came to that subject because I began to, even within myself, and look at African people who live in diaspora and see the way we live here. Some of us have so bad credit. Okay, just to give you a few bit about myself as well, is before I became a house manager, before I became a coordinator for out-of-home care, I worked as a prison officer. Mm-hmm. So I worked in maximum prison. I was a prison officer for Corrective Services, New South Wales. Mm-hmm. So while I worked in the prison, I met African people who told me their story, how they got involved in drugs, mm-hmm. and they have family problems, want to settle this family issue and all that. And then moving forward, seeing the way we live here, most of us don't have investments, we don't have life insurance. Some of us are struggling to pay rent. Yeah. And then I researched, I found that in Nigeria alone, in the year 2018, mm-hmm. $24 billion was paid into the country from foreign remittance. Mm-hmm. So from African people, Nigerians only, wow. sending money to Nigeria in 2018 was $24 billion.
Ghana was 39.
So how come?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how come people are still in Africa still poor, and there's so much deposit into the continent?
Yeah.
Now, this is not from oil. This is not from cocoa or gold. This is from African people sending money home. How come that we were able to send $24 billion and yet the people are still poor? Then I discovered that our African people in Africa are a consuming generation.
Absolutely.
So when you send $500 to Nigeria, that's currently now that's about 120,000. $20,000, 20,000 naira goes to drinking at the club. That's it.
It's like a table.
On Friday night,
gosh,
the clubs are packed out. It's unbelievable how people complain about the economy, but yet the cost of alcohol and drugs, the market is flourishing. And then the population of young girls who have now gone into prostitution in Nigeria has increased so much.
Yeah.
So who are their customers? You know, if the business was not booming, there won't be a growth in the industry. So for there to be a growth in prostitution at the moment, it means that there's patronage. Where is the money coming from? It's coming from Africans who are working double jobs in Western countries, sending money to their relatives to look after themselves, and those relatives are living the life. So they live even longer, happier than you who are here working 9 to 5 and then 4 to 10. So I then did a video and I said, African people, listen, I'm not saying don't send money to Africa.
Right.
I'm telling you to apply wisdom, because our ancestors told us that I was reading this book about African ancestry, and there was this quote from Patrice Lumumba, and he said, whenever you see an old man who is working in his old age, what you see before you was a young man who played with his resources. So that proverb alone tells you, wow, okay, so now that I'm young, now that I'm strong, I don't have to joke with my resources. What can we do as African people?
Yeah, that's a good.
Keep something for yourself. Pay yourself first. Then whatever is left, send money to your family. But remember that you're not God, and you cannot play the role of God.
Yeah.
No.
You can't do his job. If it's so hard doing your own job than doing God's job. You know what I mean? So look after yourself first. Have investments for yourself first, because if you don't help yourself, you cannot help any other person. And that video caused a lot of trouble, a lot of even as much as it went viral, it brought a lot of backlash to me. I got insulted.
Oh wow!
I got insulted from Africans living in diaspora, because I don't blame them. Because Jesus Christ was the person who made the greatest speech. Jesus made the greatest speech on the Mount, and after that speech, the Bible recorded that people mocked and laughed, people hated, and the other verse said, and people believed. So his speech was for people who believed, and that speech was for people who it was meant for. But people who sent me messages, told me, cursed me. I was ungrateful for what my family did for me. I had to call my brother in Dubai and say, look, I wasn't doing that video for my family. I was doing the video, for everyone.
Yeah.
So it stirred a lot of tension. Yeah.
So it was definitely raising some discussions everywhere. Basically, that's what it was doing.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, because some people felt like their business had done bad. Like I've spoiled their show. Some people felt I had blocked their source of income. Some because some was the truth. Yeah. Well, so some people they didn't like it, so they cursed me out. Yeah. One said to me, "If you were my brother, I could have beaten the hell out of you.
Oh, wow.
You're not a good person." Yeah, I got all that kind of threats. Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's normal. It's normal.
Did you anticipate the backlash though? Like, do you understand where it comes from, or where it's where it is coming from?
Yeah, every video that I've ever done,
I've
always had backlash. When the French Prime Minister came to Nigeria, I did a speech. against him, and I got threatened, like international threat, like, you know what I mean. So everything that you do
That's pretty serious.
has a backlash. Yeah, everything you do has a backlash. So what you need to do is you need to live your life, because if you speak, you will die. If you don't speak, you will die. So why don't you just speak? You know what I mean? So you just do what you got to do. So that's just the main thing.
It does depend
So,
what you're speaking to or against.
yeah.
Well, in this case, this is how I see it. So the video where you were, or the backlash where it is coming from, is the fact that people, or let's say parents back home and even in diaspora, they feel like you speaking against tradition, African culture, where we the parents,
You
when you
share.
are, yeah, exactly. So because they brought you up and they gave you life, and of course in the African
Yeah.
culture, in African tradition, that is the reason why you don't speak against your parents. So with that alone,
Yeah.
when they've given you, this is how they see it, they've given you the opportunity to travel to Sydney. Then this is not a video they want you to be making,
Yeah.
because it's it sounds like you're really going in against the whole tradition, and this is not the way they raise you. What did your parents, or I mean your mom, actually has she responded to this video?
I did speak to her after the video, and then she's like, "Yes, I watched your video about sending money to Africa." My mother has always told me not to live my life for people.
Okay.
God bless my mother. She's never been dependent on me per se. But I wanna clarify something with you, my brother. You said something about African our culture.
Yeah.
It is not an African culture for a parent to look after a child to look after his parents.
Oh.
It's not an African culture. It is an introduced culture from poverty. Our ancestors left wealth for their children's children. That's why our ancestors had lands, they had farms, and they would say the senior son owns everything, but he will give this and this to the younger ones. Our ancestors were wealth creators. Our ancestors. That's why, if you look at the invasion of Egypt, in the invasion of North Africa, you would see that the African kings, they were called the Nubians. The Nubian kings, they spoke versatile languages.
Yeah.
They spoke a lot of languages. They were educated people. They traded, they sold. So our ancestors, they created a platform for the younger generations to come. But when poverty was introduced into the continent by the colonial invasion, that's what modified. That's what modified the mindset. The thing that parents, children must look after their parents. No. It's not an African culture. It is an introduced culture.
Right.
Yes, we are good people. We are good people. We look after our parents when they are old. And the video that I did didn't say stop sending money to Africa. The video that I did was, listen, save something for yourself. Start keeping an annuity, because a day will come in your life where you will not have the strength you have now.
Yeah.
To continue to provide, to do double. A time will come where you will be old, and when you're old, your needs don't stop.
Right.
Your needs continue, and sometimes the cost of living will be even higher than what you are now. So begin to make deliberate, conscious effort to put something away from aside for yourself. Settle your family here before you worry about sending money back to Africa. And I use the tree as an example. I use the tree as a witness, and that was symbolic as well. When I use that tree as a witness,
Yeah, can you repeat that one?
Yeah.
Can you repeat that African proverb, or that saying with the tree
Which
being
the
a
African
witness?
using the tree is a symbol. When I said this tree bears me witness, our ancestors, they connected so much with nature, and that is reflected in the Aboriginal community here in Australia, and also the Africans in Brazil. They connect so well with nature. And if you trace the Bible steps, when Jesus Christ cursed the tree spoke, and Jesus got answered to the tree. Everything you see in this world, every tree, the birds, the leaf, everything you see, they're all living things. They all talk. They all bear witness. They all do everything. Our ancestors believed in that. That was why there was this story about a man who who could not keep a secret, and he couldn't keep it anymore. He ran to a tree and said the gossip to the tree, and the tree was cut down to blow the whistle. And the first person who blew the whistle was blowing all the secrets out. That's a proverb that says that trees talk, trees communicate. So when you say, I use this tree to bear witness with you, that I've shared this wisdom with you, is symbolic that the whole world can see that even a tree knows that this wisdom is profitable for you to learn. And if you say in the future that I wasn't told when calamity befalls people who didn't take that wisdom, and they're old and they can't survive, they can't take care of themselves anymore, this tree will bear witness that I told you this. It's just a symbolic thing that what we think doesn't matter does matter.
I like that one.
I love that. Well, on that note, we're almost getting into the last few minutes of talking to Mare Oboh, who is a motivational speaker and entrepreneur. Well, it's definitely evident why he's a motivational speaker. For those of you that are listening, if you have some last questions or remarks to drop, make sure that you drop them. As we are talking to him, he is someone that is likes to spread messages that are thought-provoking, but also very educational. Or I am even educated, learning that children taking care of their parents is not actually an African thing, but it's more of a poverty thing. That kind of became widespread, and it's kind of strong also in the diaspora. So one thing that I'd really like to know from you, Mare, is you have a book out. Can you share one or two about what people can find more of you about your book, and then closing off with your words of advice to people that are listening? I have kind of a young audience in the diaspora that are on their way to navigating, figuring out who they are and what they really want to do. So your words of advice is how to keep the motivation going. And also shortly about what to find in your book. And
thank you for that. My book is titled The Keys to Successful Migration, and currently the book is selling widely. And it's unfortunate that the people who mostly buy my book are Asians. And every time I get a sale notification that someone has bought your book, is always from Asia, India, Mexico. Yes, more than even the African people who need the motivation themselves. And it's painful that but it's actually they said something that whenever you want to hide an information.
I was about to say that one. Put it in the book.
put it in a book, and you will never find that.
Africans put it.
Right.
Yeah, in a book. It's unfortunate, and we are but my brother, it's not our fault, because we are not wired that way.
Wow.
Our ancestors never wrote books. What we had elders who sat on a tree and gave tales by moonlight. We had people who were passing through stories. So when the colonial masters came in, they killed all these people. None of them lived. They killed all of them in a bid to erase history. So that's the reason why we were not like that. But we need to now change that way, because the world is changing. We need to change that way. And so in this book, you can find information about God and migration, God's idea of migration. You find the best countries you need to migrate to. It talks about migration agents. It talks about not being exploited for migration. It talks about shutting up your mouth till your vision comes to life.
Okay.
And this book is only sold for $1.
I know. I saw it was 99 cents.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask you, are you serious? Is this really 99 cents?
Yeah. It's so cheap because the money. Yeah, it's almost free, but then people wouldn't even buy it. Like Africans wouldn't even buy it, but Asians are buying it. Indians are buying it. Like I've got reviews from India telling me how this book transformed their life. People from South Korea, I'm like, wow, buying the book. But there's a proportion of African people from Lagos, from Ghana, from Sierra Leone who have purchased this book, but it's not compared to the volume of people. Wow. To the people in other countries, and African people are exploited through migration a lot.
Yeah,
a lot. There are. I got a call from one of our sisters in Oman. I don't know how I can reach. I don't know if I should write to the Ghanaian High Commission, or I don't know how to get it. She called me that She was crying. She said, "My brother helped me. She's been raped. They rape her, and then she's become a sexual tool. And then people who run away, they die." I was like, "Wow!" But why did you? I said, "Why did you go to Oman of all countries?"
Yeah.
And she's like, Someone came to her saloon in Ghana and told her that she can make a lot of money in Oman. So without any prior information. Because African people are the only ones who migrate without information. If you look at the United States Bureau, their FBI sites and all the immigration sites, they'll say, "Citizens of America, please avoid traveling to Nigeria. There's Boko Haram attack. Avoid traveling to this area." They have information to pass to their people.
Of course.
But we don't. We don't. We migrate because we are desperate. We are escaping. That's the word that we use. So that book is a guide. It's a guide for you to know where you need to go, to know God's thought about it, to know what your ancestors think about it.
Yeah.
So migration is a human right. It's a basic human right. You have a right to live in any place, any part of the world you want to live in. You have a right, but you need to go the right way. That's where the book comes from. So it's available on my Facebook page. Just click on the shop now icon, and it takes you straight to the book. It's only sold for $1.
I've shared it along.
And then you ask.
Yeah, your words of advice to young people that are listening out there.
Okay, to young people who are immigrants, who are fresh immigrants, like me. I was a fresh immigrant 9 years ago.
Fresh.
I'll tell you something, right? I'll tell you something. Don't ever forget your why. Don't ever forget the reason why you migrated. My reason was because my father passed away when I was 5 years old, and I saw my mother suffer immensely. My mother went through the most horrible mental abuse ever. She cried literally every day for years. So I made a vow to myself that I would make sure that for the rest of her life, she never begs or borrows or suffers again.
Yeah.
So my mother, I take care of my mother even without her asking me. So that is my reason why. So as you're in that country where you are in now, never ever forget your why. When challenges come your way, remember your why. Your why will tell you when to get up in the morning. Your why will tell you the kind of friends you should have. Your why will tell you the kind of job you should get. Never forget your why. Every single challenge that you face is part of the story. Your challenges have not come to stay. They have come to pass. They will build you and they will make you better. You just have to make sure that you don't get bitter over your experiences, because life itself is painful, but suffering is a choice. It's a choice. So you either you choose to suffer or you learn from the suffering, from the pain. So if you are new and you're in the country, you're struggling with your feet, you're struggling, and you listen to this right now, I want to tell you, whatever you're facing is not new. People have gone through it and they have overcome and they have won. Keep your dream alive.
Amen. My spirit agree was that. Thank you so much, Mari, for those last motivating words. I just wanna give a shout out to Patrick Ousu, who said, "I really like his courage and boldness by sharing his thoughts." A lot of knowledge that you shared, a lot of history as well. And you helped us to really have an urge to discover our why. I know next year I'm already planning my special guest that I have. I need to have you back on the show. I definitely need to have you back to talk some more about, what's going on in our community. Any last shout outs, Mare?
I'll give a shout out to the whole of African people all over the world. I want to tell you that we need to unite.
Yeah.
We need to come together. Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, we're all created by colonial powers. We need to find a way to unite. You see, our ancestors told us that when spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. And we Africans exhibited unity a little bit when Black Panther came out. We were all excited about Black Panther. And then through that, just the cinemas only, Black Panther was able to make $850 million, even before the whole movies came out.
Yeah.
And let's say that 60% of that $850 million came from African people. But it then showed that we can be united. And let's not forget the vision of Kwame Nkrumah, the vision of Patrice Lumumba, the vision of Obafemi Awolowo. All of these men, they fought for the unity of Africa. So wherever you are right now, you are an ambassador of Africa. Represent Africa well and unite with your brother and sister so that we can move our generation to greater heights. That's all I got to say.
Thank you so much, Mari, for making
you.
giving us a bit of your time. You're also getting a last shout
Thank
out
you.
from Lydia Gemfi, who says that's so true. Africans need to unite. Well, like I said, I am going to send you a new invite for next year to have you back. Could you drop some knowledge? And
I'm starting my tour. The Australian High Commission is sponsoring an event which I'll be hosting. That will be is an African tour. We're starting in Nigeria, Nigeria next year. So that's one of the BA. We're going to start an African tour. We are awakening the continent. We're going to awaken the continent to make Black people start to think about what's working and what's not working.
Yeah.
So that's happening soon.
That is one is coming soon. So before that, we're going to talk to you again to help promote that.
Okay.
And urge everyone to listen, because one of our largest group of listeners is actually Nigerians. Just so you know, it is very interesting. Yeah. So we're gonna get the buzz going. Again, so much thank you for catching up with us. I know you have a workout day and a working day because it's Monday at your end.
I do. Yes, it is.
God bless you so much, and thank you for giving us your time. Of course, we're gonna talk again after this, because I'll give you a call later throughout the day. And again, thank you so much. God bless. And
thank you so much.
We will be talking to you very soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Danny. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Mare. Okay.
Right,
speak to you soon. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Africa on Focus, and our special guest was Mare Oboh, coming all the way from Sydney. We just went a little bit over time, so Royal, shout out to Royal, our producer, has to forgive me a little bit, but he was dropping knowledge, so that I really had to give it time, and I'm excited to have him back on the show. For those of you listening on Facebook, I dropped the link to his book, just 99 cents. Like, seriously, you should buy it. And it's called Keys to Successful Migration, Africans Understanding Our Why. And also know that we have a right to migrate. But the right way to go about it is to actually have knowledge and how to go about when we're going to. Yeah. That's really much. What did you think of today, Donnie? What are your final words?
It's interesting. It was good. We needed to hear this more on that. Yeah. Feel like it's just one of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So
absolutely.
He's telling our side of the story, and so that's beautiful. And the way he goes about with it, always linking it to African history. That's giving us further meaning and understanding.
Absolutely.
Of what the real message is. That's fine.
Absolutely. On that note, make sure that you follow Africa on Focus on Facebook, Instagram, and also africaonfocus.com. You can sign up to our newsletter. Stay informed about what's going on in Africa and who our next guest will be. We are going to be back later on. We're going to be back with talking to some actors, some African filmmakers. We'll be talking to them even before the year ends. We have some interesting guests that we will be talking to. And in the new year, also be talking to my first Moroccan on the show. Really, really. They say that Moroccans feel left out. Well, he says, no, we are all part of it. All part of African people, and he's really a social entrepreneur, really making an impact, and could really have you thinking about how to be an entrepreneur, also be conscious and having an ethical way of doing business. All of that will be coming later on Africa on Focus. Follow me on all my social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. On Twitter and Facebook, my name is This Is Miss Abba. On Instagram, it's Miss Abba. I'll be traveling just some few weeks, so you can catch me on, because I'll be doing a lot of interesting things in GH. And also, an award show is coming up, Ghana Music and Arts Awards, taking place in Amsterdam. Myself, Sylvia Kendi, and Jerry, we are nominated presenters. So we are all in the running of having one prize. I hope one of us gets it. I don't even care if it's not me. At least it has to be one of my colleagues, HiRadio representing. So I'm nominated again as a radio presenter. So make sure that you also vote for me. And find out. Go and look on my page and support your sister. Okay. Stay blessed, stay safe. Very big God bless you. We're ending on with the record from Steady collaborating with Limo Blaze. Wait for it. Have a blessed week, and I'll be catching you soon.